My name is Margaret. I'm 74 years old. I'm recording this because there are things that stay with you, things you don't talk about at dinner parties or family gatherings, things that live quietly in your body long after the people are gone. My hands remember someone else's. I don't mean in a poetic way. I mean it literally. Sometimes I'll be washing dishes or folding laundry, and my fingers will curl slightly, the way they used to when his hand was in mine. It's been 31 years, but the memory is still there, in my palms, in the space between my thumb and forefinger. I was married to Robert for 42 years. Good man, steady. We raised 3 children together. He passed in 2019. Heart attack, quick. The kind everyone says is a blessing. But the hands I remember aren't his. They belonged to a man named David. We met when I was 26. I was working at a library in Portland. He came in every Tuesday and Thursday, always checked out poetry, Neruda, Yeats, Mary Oliver before anyone knew who she was. He had carpenter's hands, rough palms, nails always a little dirty from wood stain. But when he turned the pages, he was so careful, like he was afraid of tearing something. We talked for 6 months before he ever asked me to coffee. I said yes. I shouldn't have. I was already seeing Robert by then. It wasn't serious yet, but it was heading that way. Robert was safe. He had a good job. My mother liked him. He wanted the same things I was supposed to want. But David asked me what I was afraid of, what I wanted that I wasn't saying out loud, what version of myself I was pretending not to be. No one had ever asked me questions like that. We saw each other for 8 months, always in secret. Coffee shops 2 towns over, walks in parks where no one knew us. Once we drove to the coast and sat in his truck for 4 hours just talking. I remember he held my hand the entire time. Not tight, just there, like he was saying, "I see you, the real you." My hands remember that. The way his thumb moved across my knuckles, slow, deliberate, like he was reading something written there that only he could see. I've never felt that since. I broke it off in December, right before Christmas. Robert had proposed on Thanksgiving. My family was thrilled. His family threw us an engagement party. Everyone kept saying how lucky I was, how perfect we were together. And I looked at all of it, the ring, the plans, the future everyone had already mapped out for me, and I thought, this is what you're supposed to do. So I told David I couldn't see him anymore. We met at the library, after hours. I had a key because I worked there. He came in through the back. I remember he was wearing this old green jacket, the one with the torn pocket. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He just looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "You're choosing fear." I told him he didn't understand, that it wasn't that simple, that I had responsibilities, a future to think about. He said, "You're allowed to want something just because it makes you feel alive, Margaret." Then he kissed my forehead, took my hands one last time, and left. I didn't see him again. I married Robert 4 months later, and I loved him. I did. He was kind. He was present. He showed up every single day for 42 years. We built a life. We raised children who were good people. We had Christmases and vacations and quiet Sunday mornings. But there was always a but, a small, silent corner of me that stayed with David, in that truck, on the coast, where someone had seen me, really seen me, and hadn't looked away. I thought about him more than I should have, wondered where he was, if he ever got married, if he still read poetry,
if he remembered my hands the way I remembered his. I told myself it was just a fantasy, a what-if that every married person carries, that it didn't mean anything. But my hands knew better. Robert and I had a good marriage. I want to be clear about that. We didn't fight much. We supported each other. We were partners. But there were moments when I'd be sitting next to him on the couch, his hand resting on my knee, and I'd feel distant, like I was watching my own life from somewhere else. Moments when he'd ask me what I was thinking, and I'd say nothing, because the truth was too big and too late. Moments when I'd catch my reflection in the bathroom mirror and think, who is this woman, and when did she stop asking herself what she actually wanted? I thought those moments would fade, that time would smooth them out, that eventually I'd stop wondering. But they didn't fade. They just got quieter, and I got better at ignoring them. Our youngest daughter, Amy, got divorced 2 years ago. She's 41. She called me one night crying and said, "Mom, I can't do this anymore. I've been pretending for so long that I don't even know who I am." I told her I was proud of her, that leaving took courage, that she deserved to be happy. And as I said it, I felt something crack open in my chest, because I realized I'd never given myself permission to say those things. I'd spent 50 years being the person everyone needed me to be, the good wife, the steady mother, the one who didn't make waves. And somewhere along the way, I'd forgotten that I was allowed to want something different, even if it scared me, even if it disappointed people, even if it meant starting over. After Robert died, I found myself with too much time. The house was too quiet. The routine we'd built over 40 decades was just gone. I didn't know what to do with myself. So I started going through his things, clothes, books, old boxes from the garage. And in one of those boxes, I found a stack of letters. They were from a woman named Claire, someone he'd worked with in the early 90s. The letters were warm, affectionate, not explicit, but close enough. There was nothing that said he'd acted on it, but the feeling was there, the longing, the same kind of longing I'd carried for David all those years. I sat on the garage floor and read them all, and I wasn't angry. I was relieved, because it meant he'd felt it too, that small, silent corner of himself that wanted something else, something more, something that made him feel alive in a way our marriage didn't. And he'd chosen to stay anyway, just like I had. I don't know if that makes us brave or just afraid. Maybe both. I looked David up last year. It wasn't hard. Social media makes ghosts easy to find. He's 76 now, still lives in Oregon, widowed, 2 grown kids. There's a picture of him on his daughter's page, standing in a wood shop, still building things with his hands. I almost sent him a message. I typed it out 3 different times. "Do you ever think about me? I'm sorry I was so afraid. My hands still remember yours." But I didn't send it, because what would be the point? We're different people now. That version of me, the 26-year-old in the library, she's gone. And whoever he was back then, he's gone too. All that's left is the memory, and my hands. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Maybe because I'm running out of time to say it. Maybe because I spent so much of my life keeping quiet, and I'm tired of it. Maybe because I want someone to know that I loved my husband, and I also loved someone else, and both of those things are true. I don't regret my marriage. I don't regret my children. I don't regret the life I built. But I do regret the fear that told me I wasn't allowed to want something just because it made me feel alive. The fear that said safety was more important than truth. The fear that kept me from asking, what do I actually want? Not what I'm supposed to want. What do I actually want? Because I think if I'd asked that question, really asked it, my whole life might have looked different. Not necessarily better, but mine. I think about the women in my family, my mother, my grandmother. How many of them swallowed their own desires because that's what you did? How many of them died with hands that remembered someone else's? And I think about my daughter, Amy, who had the courage to leave, who said, I can't do this anymore. And I'm so proud of her, because she asked the question I never did. My hands still remember David's. They probably always will. And I've stopped feeling guilty about it, because